Just quickly before I start, just quick little exercise. Can I get everyone who classifies themselves as a farmer in some sort of sense to stand up, please, through the room? In any sort, if you fill it out at the airport, if the ATO call you a farmer, if you call yourself a farmer, that's good. All right. Now, can everyone sit down who owns at least part of the land they farm? Cool. So we've only got a few proper farmers left standing. So the rest of you, like me, I'd say maybe part-time farmers and part-time land asset owners. And just like to remember that as we go through the presentation. So yeah, my name's Hirsch. I'm a 2018 scholar. I'm here because of GRDC, and I'm here because of Nuffield. I'm here because of my fiancée, Kira, and our beautiful newborn baby, Darcy. My parents, Brad and Joe, thanks for coming, and thanks for everyone for enabling me to be here. Now, WA broadacre farming has a problem, I think, and it's not just WA either. The best farmers in our area, according to industry benchmarks, are making a 15% return on capital over the last 10 years. So why is this a problem? Why do farmers in the area that I come from, in the blue region, always dream of farming down in the red areas? Why farmers up in the blue region have very high equities and farmers down in those red regions have lower equities? Why is that a problem being in the blue area? Financially, we're in one of the riskiest regions, in one of the riskiest industries in the world. Our land price is discounted to reflect this risk, and as our access to capital is limited by this asset, we as farmers have to own this land to be able to farm. Capital providers won't lend much against this asset either, and why would they? What would they, in being in part of a risky region like this? Now, this problem is also a huge opportunity, I believe, to farmers and land asset owners in our area, and I believe throughout Australia, if we can manage our risk. Climate. We're changing the way we farm to respond to a changing climate. Our farming practices have adapted to a less growing season rain and higher spring temperatures. And our businesses have also adapted to handle erratic seasons. And in fact, we're proud of our Australian ag resilience. Farmers maintain high equity values. We don't leverage. We're very sceptical with our investments. Many good local farmers I know wouldn't consider paying for anything unless it would pay for itself within 5 years. Return on capital, they'd have to be 15% before they'd even have a look at us, have a sniff. Is this resilience enough to handle even more erratic seasons? And is this resilience creating missed opportunities for our industry to grow? So our business. The way our family business handled risk was pretty typical, and is a precursor to my Nuffield. Our family operates a cereal cropping operation. Our yield ranges from 0 to 3.5 tonnes a hectare, and the driving factor is rainfall. Averages have sort of become irrelevant. And up until 2014, we were managing risk the same way everyone else does. In 2014, really an initiative by my parents actually, they took out Multi-Peril Crop Insurance through an Australian company, and the idea was we wondered if we could actually learn to use it and enable us to help leverage ourselves to buy more land. In 2015, I purchased another farm from family, doubled the area, a lot more debt, and the cost of the insurance product doubled too. 2016 came, and it was a good rainfall, high inputs and low prices, unfortunately. It was a minor consolidation, and then in 2017, it changed. Despite never even claiming part of this insurance program over a few years, we were left uninsured as the structure of the products changed. We then had our worst drought on record, and we had to reflect, you know, was this process a bit of a mistake? And are there better options out there? In 2018 and beyond, we needed something else, something better. So I went looking, and fortunately I was better enabled by my Nuffield Scholarship to be able to do this. So not only was I now searching for a solution for our business, I was now searching for options for our industry. I didn't just want to manage risk for farmers, I wanted to make life easier for our rural communities. So our local services and businesses didn't have to pack up and move to regional centres during the droughts, and so younger farmers could have greater flexibility and opportunities to get into farming and grow their business. And I went travelling, and there really isn't anywhere in the world which seems to have the same sort of production volatility that we have in the northern wheat belt of WA, apart from probably a few other places in Australia. But as I travelled, I really wanted to find somewhere similar to our production climate so I could look at the impact of risk management products. Around the world, even in developing regions like Eastern Europe, India and South America, they had much lower production volatility compared to us. I eventually got to a place called Chester in Montana, USA, and it was actually surprisingly similar, but economically had some major differences. Chester's a small town with a few hundred people. Their towns and their businesses rely solely on the surrounding farming economy. Droughts are the major production risk, with the long-term wheat yields being anywhere from 1 to 3 tonnes per hectare, and increasing with better practices. Most farms have gone from a fallow wheat rotation to legumes, wheat or a bit of canola. And the farm costs and their profit margins were pretty similar too. However, the key difference is that their profit margins are much less volatile than their yield volatility because of their US crop insurance program. Now, this brings me to some key economic differences. So their US crop insurance program, like a couple of other major crop insurance programs, is subsidised so that most farms will claim as much as they spend on premiums in the long term. So it's a no-brainer. It ensures that you'll almost have universal participation in the program. In Chester, this subsidy works out to be about $25 an acre a year, Australian, and because it's been around for a long time, the extra profitability has become built into the land prices. So while the insurance product still benefits the farmers, the subsidy only benefits the land asset owners. So based on an interest rate of 5%, I worked out that the subsidy has increased land prices in Chester by about 600 Australian dollars an acre, and it's nothing to sneeze at, but it still doesn't explain the huge difference between land prices here there compared to back home. Why is land worth so much more? With subsidies removed, profitability and lease values are only a little bit higher. The land market is much more competitive. Small and large, young and old farmers compete for the same land when it becomes available. Because of insurance, mortgage risk is based on a farmer's ability to pay and generate profit rather than their existing equity. Because there's less economic shock from drought, the local businesses like lawyers, hairdressers, surveyors and workshops haven't had a reason to pack up shop and move into a major centre. Farmers retire from the land into the local towns, but they often still own the property and lease it out rather than sell. So was this a case of the grass is always greener for me, or was this genuinely seeing a healthier local economy? So why has multi-peril insurance, why has it worked in other places and why hasn't it worked in Australia? So the reason why it's worked in other ag economies, developed ag economies and not in Australia, is probably two terms which I think Ross touched on earlier. Moral hazard, the risk that the entity insured will change their behaviour in order to make more claims, and adverse selection, that's the risk that the insurance program will only attract the riskier clients into the program. Now, according to one wise farmer from Chester, I managed to have a really good chat with, Carl Matson. He said, you know what, even with insurance, no matter what the system, every farmer deserves the right to go broke. And in the US and Canada, which had these insurance programs, it still ensured that the poorer farmers were still disposed of, which is an important part of making sure that the best operators are retained and rewarded. The US program evolved over decades. There's an incredible history, political history, and it's very complex. It's also very expensive to administer because it's constantly plugging these holes through moral hazards and adverse selection to deal with it, because farmers just happen to be very good at finding loopholes. The USDA is the centralised data collection agency for the land value, production, input costs, profitability, data down to very specific regions, and they've done it for a very long time. Now, this makes it incredibly easy for insurers, old and new, to be able to issue and administer their products. In Australia, any product that is launched here has to price and cost of this administration into their own products, and it makes it incredibly inefficient and slow to roll out. Now, if products are poorly designed, they probably need subsidies for lower risk or less educated farmers to take them up. With any subsidy, the strings attached means that the safety net must capture all farmers, including the riskier, lower performing ones. So can a crop insurance still work without a subsidy? Now, when I asked the farmers that I visited along the way in US and Canada, would you still pay premiums if they were doubled because the subsidies were pulled out? And virtually all of them said yes. And in fact, some Canadian farmers are already taking out an unsubsidised insurance product in direct competition with a subsidised government program. So in Canada, these products are just multi-peril crop products, but they only cherry pick from the top farmers, the lower risk producers. There's no subsidy strings to offer the service to the higher risk clients. Participating farmers are very protective of this product. It's a bit like it's a closed group, invitation only type scenario, and they self-police it if they suspect any grower might want to undermine it. But the reason they can only cherry pick the top farmers is because the government data has been there and it benchmarks farmers on profitability and risk. Now, these companies they're looking at and they're expanding into US, and they're looking at Australia, but the lack of data is the hurdle. So what products are the reinsurers? What are they lining up to launch around the world, particularly in developing ag economies with insufficient data collection? And as Ross touched on, these reinsurers are lining up to offer index insurance. As Ross explained, index insurance is simply using a third-party data set like weather data, commodity prices. I mean, everyone here who uses commodity swaps is already using index insurance. There's no moral hazard, there's no adverse selection, and it's very easy to administer and makes it very quick to roll out. In some countries, the governments are buying weather index products to protect against their drought relief programs. Other large corporate firms are buying weather index products themselves to ensure their large investments get a return in the first few years. In others, farm co-ops are buying commodity price protection at wholesale prices. There's a lot of new products coming into the line with index insurance. Now, what happens with risk protection, and is it all good or bad? Now, you can argue about this, whether it's good or bad for us to protect against droughts, but it definitely changes the economic paradigm. It's great to have more flexible finance available to younger farmers, but in the long run, they'll just have to pay more for the land price anyway. But if it enables more leasing and separates the operating business from the land asset, we actually have to need to own the land to be able to expand or start farming in the first place. Will we see family members? Will we see more corporate farmers? Or will we see more mixed arrangements? Now, I certainly see more good than bad, as long as we can adapt and make the most of our opportunities ahead. If we want to use risk management products in Australia, then these products need to be designed in conjunction with the capital providers. Now, these might be banks, joint venture partners, or the landowners who lease their land. If we can de-risk the capital, then the farming operation can be separated from the asset, then we might see more flexible finance and farming business structures, which can also separate the land asset, which like we see in more developed ag economies. One example in Ireland I came across was in Ireland, where there's a joint venture program between an insurance company called Stable, set up by a UK Nuffield scholar, and it was a partnership with ag finance companies, and they incorporated interest payment waiver insurance based on milk prices into the mortgages for dairy farmers. Now, the value of the risk management product for the finance company means that the cost of the insurance was able to be completely absorbed by the offset in interest rate reductions. Now, this product isn't subsidised and is helping farmers who have a capacity to generate profit, not those who already have existing land capital. But this isn't available in Australia. What could we use ourselves to help reduce our business to drought exposure? And was it available now? Now, we didn't want to be exposed to other farmers' moral hazard. We didn't want to pay for administration cost of the risk assessment and the middle margins along the way. So we opted for index insurance, rainfall insurance, and we used our local Bureau of Meteorology weather station to do it. So in 2018 and this year, we planned and tweaked a product to hedge ourselves against drought. It enabled us to continue our business strategy focusing on growth. Now, this product isn't magic. Like any insurance product, it costs more than what you can get in premiums, but it's very efficient and allows us to make assertive long-term decisions. It allows us to continue leveraging our business. And what's more exciting is this is just really the tip of the iceberg, and there are better products in the pipeline if we, as landowners or farmers, want to use them. What do we need to do to access and utilise these products? Now, no matter what risk management solution it is, our lack of agricultural performance data makes it unnecessarily difficult for the agri-finance sector, let alone for new insurance products wanting to launch in Australia. And this can be fixed now. Our agri-finance companies, crop product retailers and other capital providers also need growth, and they need reduced drought exposure for their books. Newer finance products will be more flexible and more easily target and identify better performing farmers. And as we farmers and industry need to adapt to lower operating margins and higher land values, the family farm model, adverse to leverage, is not going to compete with larger corporate farms and their better geographical spreads and deeper pockets. Now, finally, I know that I was going to leave some messages, but I know there's beer waiting outside, so I want to give you something to ask each other over a couple of beers. What would you have done differently at the same 10 years again? Would you be more assertive or protective? And what are you? Have you made more money from your land appreciation or through your operations? And do you spend your equal time and effort on both? If your neighbour wanted to invest in them, would you? Do you think of risk or profit first when they'd ask you that question? And how is your business going to grow? Are you competing with corporate farmers and their capital? And if you reduce your risk, could you use it too? So hopefully, like me, you can see the plethora of opportunities ahead of us. And thank you.